I never expected a lonely rancher to sweep me away from a life of heartbreak. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was a stormy afternoon, thick clouds swirling ominously above as if the sky itself was mourning my loss. I stood in the wreckage of my own heart, surrounded by memories of laughter that now echoed with haunting silence. It took everything within me to breathe, to face the reality of my crumbling life, and then there was him. Jack. A man with the kind of rugged hands that seemed forged from the very earth he worked on. He wasn't just a rancher, he was a mystery wrapped in shadows, living miles away from the nearest neighbor. The locals whispered about him, tales of lost loves and midnight rides under a moon that watched over secrets. His ranch sat at the edge of a canyon, alone but full of life, a stark contrast to my suffocating past that I remember that first encounter vividly. His silhouette against the fading sun was striking, his eyes piercing through the dusk. "Need a hand?" he asked, his voice rough yet warm. I felt an electric charge, an unexplainable pull. Could he really be the escape I craved? Tension hung heavy in the air. I felt a lump in my throat as I shared my story with him. My words spilled out like fragile glass, each one shattering under the weight of my sorrow. He listened, completely still, and in that silence, I realized he understood pain, but why would a man so isolated, so steeped in his own loneliness, take an interest in me? Each evening spent under the sprawling sky, I unearthed more questions. I could hear the low murmurs of the wind, almost whispering the secrets of his past. His laughter felt like a gentle caress, yet there was always a shadow lurking, whispering of grief and solitude. Days turned into weeks. Every moment with Jack was magnetic, filled with laughter and unspoken words. But the more I fell for him, the more the uneasy sense of mystery tied my insides in knots. His world was a mess of unresolved memories and buried emotions, and no matter how close I got, I sensed a barrier, a hesitation deep within him, and then there was that night, a sudden echo in the silence. A shout, sharp and raw, cutting through the tranquility. I turned toward the sound, and my heart raced as fear crashed over me. What had I stumbled into? Jack's face went pale, and in that instant, I knew we were on the brink of something powerful and terrifying that I couldn't shake off, the feeling that the truth was lurking just beneath the surface. Secrets ready to unfold when I least expected them. My heart thudded painfully in my chest. Would we face these revelations together? Or would they tear us apart, just like everything else? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The dawn broke with a heavy haze, the clouds still reluctant to surrender to the sun. The aftermath of last night lingered in the air, thick and suffocating, as I wrapped my arms around myself and stared out of the small window of Jack's modest home. The moment replayed in my mind, the sharp scream, the worry etched into Jack's features, and the way he looked at me as if the sky had fallen on us both. I finally turned to face him, still groggy and tousled as he brewed coffee in the kitchen. Steam curled into the cool air, giving the room a surreal feel, as if we were encased in a fugue created by our fears. "What was that?" I asked at last, my voice barely breaking the silence, an echo of the night that hunted me. Jack froze, the mug quivering slightly in his calloused hands. "Just a jaguar," he finally replied, his tone casual, but the brightness in his eyes dimmed, revealing an inner storm. "They're just coming back down from the higher ground since the drought." "Just a jaguar?" I repeated incredulously, my heart still pounding. Each word felt heavy with something unsaid, a truth hidden beneath layers he refused to uncover. I wanted to reach for him, to bridge the chasm of unvoiced fears between us, but I feared the weight of his response that he turned away from me, casting glances through the window, his profile etched against the morning light, each crease in his face telling stories of loss. I could almost hear the memories colliding within him, and the ache in my chest tightened. I longed to pull him into my arms, to be the solace he needed, but what if he wasn't ready to let anyone in? I decided to take a step forward, my intuition guiding me. "Jack," I ventured carefully, "tell me what's really going on." His jaw clenched as he finally faced me, vulnerability writhing behind his guarded expression. "I lost someone once to a jaguar, actually," he admitted. The confession slipped from his lips like a lead weight, each syllable sinking deep into my heart. She was my sister. I never forgave myself for not being there. The room seemed to shrink around us, thickness choking the air. I felt my breath hitch, the specter of his past casting shadows over our fragile connection. How could I comfort him, when my own shadow loomed so large? With each passing day, I feared my own heartbreak would resonate too deeply with his, like a treacherous echo finding chorus in his sorrow, but just as despair threatened to claw at us, a soft voice emerged from somewhere outside a child's laughter. It drifted faintly through the cracks of life, a braid of innocence and light cutting through the thick emotion surrounding us. Jack's expression shifted, and for the briefest moment, a hint of warmth flickered across his face. "Liam," he whispered, almost to himself. "Who's Liam?" I asked, my heart racing at the thought of a new connection. Jack's features softened, and, as if compelled by an invisible thread, he walked towards the door. "He's a neighbor's kid," he said, glancing over his shoulder. "They come by to help out sometimes. I think they missed me." Something inside me stirred at the mention of Liam. Perhaps the brightness of this boy could pierce Jack's shadowy world. "Should we invite them in?" I suggested, feeling a surge of hope. Jack hesitated, the turmoil within him wrestling with the longing for connection. I took a breath, steadying myself against the weight of his turmoil. "It could be good for you, for both of us," I said softly, placing a tentative hand on his arm. "You deserve some light, Jack." His gaze faltered as he looked at me, and for a fleeting second, a flicker of choice hung in the air. Just then, a knock at the door jolted us. It felt like a splintered breath, revealing the fracture between possibility and static darkness. Jack straightened up, the hesitation in his eyes deepening as he went for the door. As he swung it open, the world shifted. Liam stood there, bright-eyed and overflowing with laughter, a pumpkin-sized smile carved into his face. "Mr. Jack. I brought cupcakes." Jack's expression unwound ever so slightly, the corners of his mouth lifting. "All right, little man. Come on in." As laughter unfolded in the room, I felt a rift inside me deepen. The love Jack had for this child was clear, yet I sensed it only scratched the surface of his suppressed grief. While they chatted, the laughter mingling with paper crinkling, I watched Jack transform, his walls crumbling little by little. The boy's energy seemed to reach even the dustiest corners of his heart, but was that enough? Would the joy of a little boy's presence be enough to shake loose the memories that mislaid him? The moment felt electric, swelling with possibility, yet I felt the pull of unresolved tension. Would Jack ever truly let go of his past? And just as that thought anchored in my heart, a soft call echoed from the porch, starkly juxtaposing this fragile happiness. "Jack, we need to talk." My stomach dropped as I turned to see a figure lingering in the doorway, an unfamiliar woman, her face cloaked in shadows, but her intent unmistakable. Jack's face blanched, the laughter around us fading like ghostly whispers, replaced by the stiff air of disclosed secrets and dread that I stood frozen, gripped by a sudden rush of anxiety. Who was she? What storm was about to break over our small patch of sunlight? As Jack's breath hitched inaudibly beside me, I realized that whatever love might bloom here was now dangling perilously on the edge of something ambiguous and potentially devastating. The woman stepped inside with an assertive grace, her presence ripe with unspoken authority. My heart raced as the sunlight seemed to recoil from her stern countenance, casting a foreboding shadow behind her. The laughter died out, replaced by a heavy silence that clung to the edges of the room like an unwanted guest. "Jack," she said, her voice a low thrum that carried a weight I couldn't decipher. "I came to find you." We need to talk about your sister. That I felt as if the air had been sucked from the room, leaving only the echo of horror reverberating within me. Jack's face twisted as confusion and apprehension warred within him. It was as if the very mention of his sister had summoned dogged fears, long dormant yet suddenly ravenous for recognition. "Gwen," he murmured, barely above a whisper. "You need to face it," she continued, her gaze sharp, cutting through the walls Jack had meticulously built. "You can't keep hiding from the truth." Her focus shifted to me, measuring my presence with the flick of her wary eyes. "I don't know who you are, but this isn't just about you two anymore." That I felt my heart race as her words sunk in. What truth? What was so desperate behind Jack's past that it required confrontation at this moment? My chest tightened as I observed Jack's face, searching for signs of the man I was beginning to understand, the man I was beginning to care for. "Enough, Lena," Jack retorted, his voice suddenly fierce. "You don't know what this I do know." She interrupted, stepping closer with an intensity that left no room for retreat. "I saw what happened. I was there. I heard her scream. You can't keep running from it." I watched Jack's whole being seize, caught in a vice of emotions, guilt, sorrow, and the remnants of pain sharper than a jagged edge. His shoulders slumped as if the weight of the very world settled upon them. Liam, blissfully unaware of the tempest brewing, stood clutching his cupcake box, his innocent joy stark against the overwhelming tension. "Mr. Jack. Are we going to have cupcakes?" he ventured, eyes wide with curiosity. "It's not the time, Liam," I said gently, trying to shield him from the storm. Jack's gaze remained locked on the woman, the turmoil within him churning dangerously close to the surface. "Running won't bring her back, Jack," Lena continued, her voice firmer now. "You're losing yourself in the process." The words struck Jack like arrows. I could see him physically retreating behind the wall he was desperately trying to fortify. "I thought we were past this, Lena. You shouldn't have come here," he managed, his voice growing hoarse. That I stepped forward, the instinct to intervene clawing at my chest. "What happened to her, Jack?" "Please," I urged softly, hoping to coax the truth from his lips like the touch of sunlight coaxing blooms from hardened soil. "I can't understand this unless you let me in." But he only shook his head, his eyes cast downward. "You'll only get hurt," he murmured. "People get hurt when they see too much." I felt a chill seep into my bones, stinging like frostbite. The battle lines were drawn between grief and healing, each side grappling for dominance. Lena shifted, frustration etched across her face, but there was something else there. "Understanding. When I came to find you, I thought I'd find you better," she said, quieter now, softer like the fluttering of wings. "But this is still haunting you, Jack." Liam's small voice broke the suffocating silence once more. "What about the cupcakes? Can we really not eat the cupcakes?" A smile tried to push past the surface of Jack's despair. It flickered like a flame struggling against a gust. "We can eat the cupcakes, buddy," he said finally, his facade carefully assembled, but it was clear his thoughts were elsewhere. As the boy opened the box, a rush of frosting and colorful sprinkles escaped into the air, sparking an irresistible allure even in the thick tension. The sight brought a fleeting warmth, threading camaraderie through our gathering emotions, but it felt fragile, almost like glass. "Jack," I said, my resolve strengthening, "we can face this together." And just as I dared to hope that light was pushing through the cracks of darkness, Lena's next words froze the moment in time. "Jack, it's about their bodies. There's something you need to know, something I've discovered," she said, her voice trembling as a new dimension of panic etched deeper lines into Jack's face. The carefree atmosphere shattered, and I trembled at the enormity of what was about to unfold. Jack, standing on the precipice of either revelation or complete withdrawal, was caught in between, a vessel being pulled taut by currents he could not begin to understand. As my heart raced, I found myself yearning not just for answers, but to hold on to the slivers of hope that still glimmered across our shared space. The war between love and lingering loss was raging, and it could only end in one of two ways: a connection deeper than either of us dared to believe, or a chasm too wide to bridge. I braced myself for what was to follow, knowing that whatever Lena had unearthed could very well change everything. The air grew thick with an urgency that stung my lungs as I twisted my hands together, desperate to know what Lena had discovered. Jack's eyes reminded me of the deepest fathoms of despair, waves crashing against unseen rocks, and I felt my own heart flounder in tandem with his. The fragile balance of the moment teetered dangerously, as the laughter of a child felt worlds away from the dark undercurrents swirling in our midst. "Lena, please," Jack said, almost pleadingly, desperation clinging to his voice like a shadow. "You can't drop this on me now." "Not here," she took a collective breath, as if drawing strength from the very ground beneath us. "You need to understand, Jack. I didn't come to hurt you. I wanted to help." Her words were laced with sincerity, but the revelation still felt like a storm poised to unleash itself upon us all. "Liam, how about we go pick a nice spot to eat those cupcakes?" I suggested, trying to divert the boy's innocent enthusiasm. "Maybe outside where the sun is shining. Won't that be fun, okay?" He chirped, bouncing on his feet, oblivious to the gravity of our conversation. I took his small hand in mine, leading him gently toward the door, a part of me hoping that the simple joys of childhood could provide a temporary balm to the chaos brewing within, but as I turned to look back at Jack, the turmoil on his face rooted me in place. "You don't have to do this alone," I said, letting my voice fill the gap left by silence. "Whatever is out there, we can handle it together. I want to be here for you." He glanced at me, vulnerability cracking the stern exterior he maintained. "I can't. You don't know what you'd be getting into." With Liam momentarily distracted, I pressed on. "Maybe I do. You think too little of me, Jack. The truth is rarely clean or simple, but facing it, that's where the healing starts." Lena watched us, a flicker of something unreadable flashing across her features, approval or perhaps dread. "You're right, it's time you faced this, Jack. There's too much at stake, and it's not just about you anymore. Gwen, she deserves closure. And so do you." "Closure?" Jack scoffed, bitterness curling his lips. "You think that's all it takes? To lay bare wounds that refuse to heal? No, Jack. You need to dig deeper." Lena's voice softened, appealing to a rage built from years of resentment. "What happened? What you thought you could bury so easily, it's still with you. It has a pulse. It lives every day through you." It felt like a spell, binding me, pulling me closer to the frayed edges of Jack's reality. I looked at him, aware of the jagged pain that must have festered for so long, then back to Lena, who stood, a lighthouse amidst stormy seas, shedding light on secrets drenched in sorrow. "That I know what I saw," she continued, her words edged with fear and tenderness. "I know what they found, Jack. You need to confront it, or it'll consume you." In that moment, Jack's world began to fracture. "No, don't do this," he rumbled, shaking his head in fierce denial. "You don't know everything. You weren't there. You didn't see what I saw, and what I did." The truth hung heavy and palpable, errors of the past threatening to rise like ghosts in the night. And then, like a lightning bolt igniting the dark sky, a single tear slipped down Jack's cheek, sparking an emotional urgency, the dam within him beginning to break. "That I wish I could take it all back," he whispered, his voice barely a sigh. That I reached out to him, instinctually wanting to hold him through the storm, reminding myself that I could be the safety he needed. "Then start by being honest with yourself. With me." Before he could respond, the oppressive air electric with anticipation, Lena's phone buzzed in her pocket, startling the fragile space we held. She pulled it out, her expression shifting to alarm as she read the message. I need to take this." But I could see Jack falter at her departing silhouette. The fracture lines deepened, pulling us all again into shadows both frightening and familiar. "I'll go with you," I offered before thinking, needing to tether him to the urgency of the moment. Yet her eyes widened. Almost frantically, as if to warn me of uncharted waters. "No, it's not safe. Jack, please." A cacophony of emotions surged within me, fear intertwining with an irrepressible need to shield him from the darker paths ahead. Yet, before Jack could offer his protest, Lena was already slipping out the door, leaving only the weight of her words resonating in the silence, and then came the words I had unwittingly dreaded. Jack collapsed into his own despair, his breath ragged. She can't understand. A sudden crunch of plastic punctuated the air. Liam had tripped, sending his treasured cupcake box tumbling down the staircase. Liam! Are you okay? I gasped, turning to help him, but the moment had unspooled too far. Jack's eyes widened in horror as he glanced between the mess and me, the tumult of emotions swirling around us. No. Don't. Don't follow her. But Lena was already gone, leaving Jack and I in a crucible of uncertainty, the very fabric of our budding relationship fraying at the edges. Just then, the phone buzzed again with an alert, and my heart sank as it dawned upon me, a nameless dread and a single message changed everything. We need to talk about Gwen. It's urgent. This isn't over. And as I stood there, cradling Liam's torn treasures, I felt the encroaching shadows quietly envelop the light of our moment. A new battle was preparing to unfold. The morning sun spilled through the window, illuminating the remnants of Liam's crushed cupcake sprawled across the floor like fallen petals. I knelt down, scooping the tiny pieces into the cardboard box, my fingers trembling as I tried to shake off the chill wending through my bones. Jack's gaze remained distant, clouded with thoughts too heavy for his frame. I could barely hear Liam's soft whimpers as he realized that his sweet treats were ruined, but my heart ached in tandem with his distress. Sorry, buddy, I murmured, torn between comforting the little boy and reaching out to Jack, who still appeared lost in the haze of Lena's revelations. I could see his mind racing, the shadows of the past wrestling with the dim light of the present. Mama, Liam sniffed, did I break the cupcakes? No, sweetie, you just made an accident. I smiled, trying to hold back my own anxiety. We can make more. How about we bake some new ones together? Wouldn't that be fun? Okay. His enthusiasm was a small flame flickering against the dark. My offer lingered in the air as a thin thread of hope. If we could craft new delights together, perhaps we could weave something beautiful out of the brokenness swirling in Jack's heart, but my gaze drifted back to him, caught in the storm brewing behind his eyes. Jack, I said softly, stepping closer, cautious. What happened with Gwen? I can't understand if you don't share your truth with me. That he shook his head violently, almost as if the movement might shake off the memories trapped within. What do you want from me? He snapped, his voice a raw edge, an explosion of pent-up emotions. You really want to know? You really want to dive into this mess? You have no idea. The intensity of his response startled me, but beyond the anger, I glimpsed fear and shame flickering in his eyes like a candle at the mercy of the wind. I do want to understand, Jack. I want to be here for you. But you have to meet me halfway. That I don't know how, he answered, and his words felt like an echo in the empty space between us. I buried everything. I thought it was easier that way. His confession hung heavy, and I took a deep breath, my heart cracking for him. Hiding won't shield you, Jack. It's only delaying the inevitable, and the pain will fester. It was odd to feel a deep connection in this chaotic moment. Jack was carrying burdens I couldn't shoulder for him, yet part of me wanted to dive into the depths of his hurt, to be the one who could coax his secrets into the light. Just then, my phone vibrated in my pocket, and I pulled it out, my heart sinking once more as I saw another notification from Lena flash on the screen. I can't escape this, and you can't either. Let's meet. What is it? Jack asked, his breath catching as he glanced at my face. It's Lena, I stammered, feeling a sudden wave of guilt wash over me. She wants to meet. Jack's expression darkened, and I could see him grappling with emotions I couldn't fully understand. Why would you want to talk to her after all this? He stepped back as if the very thought burned him. What if she drags you into this? You don't know what she's mixed up in, neither do you, Jack, I countered gently. But we all deserve clarity. I won't run from it. As I turned away, a soft tug on my shirt pulled me down to Liam's level. Mama, I can hear the sad in his voice, he whispered, peering up at Jack with innocent understanding. It's okay to be sad. I'm sad too. Jack's eyes softened at the unexpected tenderness of Liam's words, the small boy unlayering armor years thick with pain. He hesitated before squatting down beside Liam, his massive frame shrinking in that simple act of vulnerability. Yeah, buddy, there's a lot of sad going around, he admitted, his voice cracking, the weight he carried still palpable but somehow a little lighter in the light of Liam's sincerity. But just as it seemed that a fragile truce might anchor us in this storm, the front door swung open with a crashing thud. All heads turned as Lena returned, her panic apparent, her breath coming in short gasps. "You have to listen to me," she exclaimed, panic threading through her words. "It's urgent. We need to get somewhere safe now." The temperature in the room seemed to drop as a frigid reality settled in, suffocating the small moment of hope we'd just shared. Jack and I exchanged a quick, horrified glance, the unspoken question heavier than the air itself. "Why?" Jack demanded, his voice laced with protective ferocity. "What do you mean somewhere safe? What's going on, Lena?" But Lena glanced at Liam, her expression shifting from wild-eyed urgency to a haunting sorrow. "I can't explain here," she replied, urgency pulsing in every word. "But they know about Gwen. And they're coming for all of us. That final statement landed in the room like a bombshell. Everything I thought I understood about this situation shattered, and I realized we were teetering on the edge of an abyss. The emotional weight of our fractured lives loomed over us, spun tight by fear and a desperation only amplified by Lena's revelations. At that moment, I felt every heartbeat thrum through my veins and the world narrowed, yards of distance closing in uncomfortably. With that revelation hanging in the air, something inside me cracked wide open, revealing a truth I never wanted to face. This wasn't just about Jack anymore. It was about survival, and suddenly the stakes couldn't be higher. The room fell into a whispered chaos, tension wrapping around us like a vice grip. I instinctively reached for Liam, pulling him close against me as confusion and fear cascaded through the air. The glow of hope that had flickered moments before was extinguished, replaced by the harsh reality that we were now caught in a web of something much darker than I had bargained for. "What do you mean they know about Gwen?" Jack's voice was low but trembling with an undercurrent of fear. He looked at Lena with an intensity that could pierce steel. "You have to explain, not here," she pleaded, pacing restlessly, her presence electricity crackling in the charged atmosphere. "We can't have them tracking us. They could already be close. I don't care about the risk, Lena. I need to know who's after us." Jack's frustration swelled, each word a battle cry against an invisible enemy threatening to tear apart the fragile piece we were fighting to rebuild. It's complicated," she stammered, her eyes darting around the room. "I can only tell you this much, it's people from my past, people I thought I had left behind. They're searching for Gwen, but they'll come for all of us if they think she's connected to any of this." I asked, feeling cold encroach upon my spine. "What do you mean, they? Who?" "Criminals, powerful ones." Her gaze shifted, and I could almost see shadows trailing behind her words. "They've been watching Gwen for a while." I thought it was over, but now before she could finish, the unmistakable sound of gravel crunching under tires drew our attention, sending a shiver down my back. Instinctively, I turned, panic rising like bile in my throat. The sharpness of my unease cut through the room, a knife that had run too deep. "Someone's here," Jack warned, a low growl barely contained within his chest. I could see the tension in his muscles, coiling like springs ready to snap. "Hide. Now." Lena's command shattered the moment, and in a rush, I ushered Liam behind the couch, my heart racing as I internally scrambled through every possible escape route. The innocence of my son crouching there in the dark only added to the weight on my chest. Jack's body shifted into a defensive stance, a barrier between Lena and whatever threat loomed just outside. "What do we do? There's a back door to the kitchen, we might need to leave," she breathed, her face pale but resolute. "But if they see us crouched down?" I hissed, peering over the couch. The shadows stretched ominously, each moment lengthening in the silence heavy with dread. The sound of footsteps grew louder, and my pulse quickened, thundering in my ears. Out of the window, I could see a figure approach, silhouetted against the brightening sky, and a chill of realization ran through me. This wasn't just any intruder, this presence seeped danger. "Lena, who is that?" Jack whispered fiercely, his eyes narrowed. "Two don't know, but if it's them, we're in deep trouble," she whispered back. Liam clutched my hand tightly, his little body trembling against me, unaware of the depths of the peril surrounding us but deeply intuitive to the fear thrumming in the air. "Mama? Are we okay?" His innocence was a light in the thickening dark, yet I felt the hollowness of hope within me starting to ebb. "Shoo, baby. We're okay," I soothed, even as my own heart quavered with uncertainty. Just then, the front door creaked open, revealing a darkened figure against the blinding light spilling in from the outside. The outline solidified as the man stepped inside, his eyes obscured but sharp and searching. "Lena." The single word fell from his lips like a veil of menace, and my breath caught in my throat as I strained to look at him. "Run. Now!" Lena shouted, her eyes flaring wide as she took a step forward. But instead of retreat, a surge of instinct propelled me. I grabbed Liam and tugged him up, and Jack followed as we streamed towards the kitchen. "Stop!" the man shouted, his voice echoing like a clap of thunder. And in that moment of desperation, I caught a glimpse of his face, dark hair, chiseled features, but the rawness of pain etched there was familiar. "Jace?" I gasped in disbelief, feeling every beat of my heart resonate with the memories cascading over me like a tidal wave. "What are you doing here?" Yet even within the surge of confusion, the urgency of escape loomed heavy, eclipsing the warmth of recognition. I didn't know if this was a savior or yet another threat, but the moment was too precarious to linger. "Go!" Jack yelled, the urgency in his voice burning through the fog as adrenaline shot through my veins. But as we surged toward the back door, one final thought anchored itself in my mind. I had never expected to see Jace again, and with his sudden appearance, the remnants of old wounds tore open anew, colliding with the impending doom surrounding our small family. Whatever this was leading to, I knew it wasn't going to end well. The moment Jace stepped into the house, it felt like the entire world had shifted on its axis. My mind raced, grappling with the sight of him after all these years, but the urgent circumstances shattered any nostalgic clarity I might have feigned. His presence was a jarring reminder of a past burdened with its own complexities, and just as quickly as I recognized him, I felt the weight of our unresolved history settle heavily between us. "Go." Jack's voice cracked through the tumult of my thoughts, urgency slicing through the remnants of surprise. I couldn't let myself be paralyzed by this newfound terror, the sheer disbelief that Jace was here, in this moment. "Liam!" I hissed, tugging my son close as we darted through the panting tension of the kitchen. I could hear Jack's footsteps pounding behind us, his desperation fueling our flight. We burst out the back door into the cold morning air, the chill prickling my skin like 1,000 needles. With no clear path out, I fought against the instinct to look back, knowing something monumental was happening in that shadowed doorway. The remnants of my past were becoming entangled in the present, and I couldn't shake the feeling Jace's arrival was both a lifeline and a death sentence. That we sprinted across the yard, my heart matching the frenetic rhythm of my feet beneath me. The expansive sky loomed large overhead, a reminder of both the freedom I craved and the dangers lurking just beyond. "Where do we go now?" Jack gasped, skirting around the old barn, its weathered wood whispering tales of a bygone era. "There's a trail back there." I pointed to a narrow pathway snaking through the tall grass, the way bordered by a line of scraggly trees. "It leads away from here." The uncertainty chased us forward, but as we neared the trail, I felt a tug on my arm. I turned to find Liam's eyes darting to the house, full of bewilderment. "Is that Jace?" His innocent question ripped into my heart like an unexpected blade. "Yes, but why are we running from him?" The confusion in his voice mirrored the chaos swelling within me, forcing me to confront the remnants of guilt I thought I had buried long ago. That I knelt beside him, my grip tightening on his shoulders. "I don't know, sweetheart. I need you to trust me, okay?" His small face scrunched in thought, obviously trying to make sense of the tumult, yet his small nod reminded me that despite the exhaustion threatening to overtake us, he still believed in the tapestry of safety I'd woven in his life. Before I could rise, the sound of approaching footsteps shattered the placid silence, slicing through the growing anxiety like a hot knife. "We can't keep sprinting into the unknown," Jack urged, breathless. "We must figure out who that guy is first," I said, my voice a tense whisper. "If he's connected to Lena's past, that makes him dangerous." Jack cast a worried glance back at the house. "So what are we doing, then? We can't just leave like this." "We can't go back," I insisted, the conviction in my chest rising. "If it's them looking for Gwen, we need to get as far away from here as possible. We can circle around to the old ranch. Wait." Jack interrupted, his expression tight with urgency. "What if he's not a threat? What if he came to warn us?" The idea twisted painfully in my mind. "Warn us about what?" I said, my heart heavy with the weight of possibility. "He's part of an era I thought was behind me, Jack. I don't know if I can just trust him." "True," Jack conceded, his brow furrowed as he ran a hand through his hair. "But we can't carry all this weight alone. We have to gather help." That I wanted to argue against the glimmer of hope he dangled in front of me, the faint possibility of reconnecting with someone who once meant so much and yet whose presence now threatened our very safety. In that moment of indecision, a rustling came from the underbrush nearby, pulling my thoughts back to the danger we were still very much in. "My gut says we shouldn't head for the road. We don't know what's waiting on the other side," I murmured, tapping into instincts honed by years of surviving the aftermath of chaos. "If we're gonna do this, let's do it fast," Jack urged, scanning the tree line as if the very thought of being caught brought him back to life. Throwing caution to the wind, I grabbed Liam's hand and started deeper into the woods. Each step became a challenge, branches whipping against my legs and the brush underfoot crunching loudly, a relentless reminder of my reality. I could feel the tug of my past at my heels. That's when the adrenaline surged again, triggered by a sound that broke through the rustling leaves, urgent and menacing footsteps, not far behind. The realization was ice cold. Someone was following us. Panic pierced through the haze of fear. Jace wasn't just a ghost from my past, he could very well be the harbinger of our undoing. That we need to pick up the pace. I shouted, heart racing, adrenaline flooding my veins as Liam clung tighter to my side. But even as we plunged deeper into the underbrush, the haunting question echoed through my mind: had I made a fateful mistake in chasing the shadows, leaving our fate intertwined with someone whose footsteps could very well lead us to deeper peril? The thought tore through me, unrelenting, but it was too late to turn back now. The forest opened wider ahead, a thicket to either side, and yet the tension remained, a palpable pressure pulling me deeper into my chaotic reality. And then, without warning, a branch snapped loudly behind us, and the unmistakable shape of a looming figure burst from the shadows, sending us careening to the ground. Panic swelled within me as I scrambled to my feet, adrenaline pulsing through every fiber of my being. The figure loomed closer, its outline barely perceptible through the dappled sunlight filtering between the branches overhead. My instinct directed me to shield Liam with my body, every maternal instinct flaring as I prepared for whatever confrontation was about to unfold. But in an unexpected moment of clarity, I recognized the person before us, the thin, angular face and the intelligent eyes beneath the brim of a weathered hat. It was one of the ranch hands from the neighboring property, a man named Cole. He had worked for us before everything disintegrated, and though it was years since we had last crossed paths, I could still see the flicker of concern etched in his gaze. "Dawn. Is that you?" His voice carried a mixture of disbelief and urgency, instantly flooding me with a sense of familiarity that cut through the chaos threatening to drown me. Cole was a gentle soul, with a determination that stemmed from having grown up in these woods. Even in our disarray, my heart recognized the flicker of safety in his presence, yet fear still gnawed at my insides. "Cole. We need to go, now," I whispered, knowing full well the precariousness of our situation. "What's going on? Why are you out here? Did they find you?" He stepped forward, eyes darting to the tree line as if daring the shadows to unveil the threats that followed us. "They are looking for us," I stammered, my thoughts still racing through the fragmented pieces of my past colliding with my present. I don't know how they found me, but if we don't leave then let's move, Cole interrupted, motioning toward the safety of the trees. He dropped into a lower stance, beckoning us to follow. I know a route that leads to the creek. It's overgrown and rarely used, but it'll get you away from here, Jack nodded, resolute and desperate. My heart was still in turmoil, teetering on the precipice of every decision weighing upon it. Would Cole lead us to safety or yet deeper into the mire? But faced with no other option, I felt a flicker of hope, a light I dared not extinguish. Liam, hold on to my hand, I instructed, intertwining my fingers with his as we darted behind Cole, who moved with the stealth of a man familiar with the wilds around us. Stay close, okay? Our escape surged forward, the tension between us shifting palpable like the air in a thunderstorm, instincts flaring as we wove deeper into the embrace of the forest. Each rustle echoed behind us, the haunting feeling of pursuit relentlessly pushing us forward. With each hurried step and the gnarled roots snagging at our feet, I held fast to the slivers of hope sparking in my mind. Cole's presence cut through the storm brewing inside me. There. Just past those trees. We can make it, I promise. He urged, glancing back at us with a safety that coaxed me to move faster, and then, as we burst into a clearing, the creek shimmered before us, a ribbon of silver threaded through the dizzying green of surrounding foliage. The water was low, reflecting the shards of sunlight breaking through the leaves above. A small bank jutted out, creating the perfect hiding spot. Quick, over here, Cole urged, his voice now low and insistent. Jack and I hurried to the edge, unseen within the ridge, crouching down as if the very ground might absorb us whole. My heart raced as I listened, straining to pick up every sound echoing through the quiet chorus of rustling leaves and soft ripples of water breaking against stone. For a moment, just a fleeting breath, it felt safe. Yet the air was saturated with an uneasy promise, the knowledge that danger was still lurking close behind, and then came the voice I had not expected but shattered the fragile cocoon of hope we had wrapped around ourselves. Dawn! Come out wherever you are. It was Jace, his commanding tone rising above the distant sounds of the forest, sending cold tremors down my spine. Liam clung to me, his small fingers digging into my arm, eyes wide with an unfiltered mix of terror and confusion. Mom, what do we do? My mind raced, every instinct screaming at me to protect him as I felt the ground beneath me shift with uncertainty. We stay quiet, baby. Just breathe. I could feel the walls of my carefully constructed life beginning to crumble again, the creeping dread that this man I had tried to distance myself from might ultimately lead us to ruin. But even within the rising tide of fear, something twisted inside me. Jace's arrival had opened a gap I hadn't realized was still there, a space where regret and longing coalesced. Before I could address those feelings, the forest erupted with noisy loud crack, perhaps a branch snapping, followed by a shout that sent a chill down my spine. I'm not leaving without you, Dawn. It was a desperate plea wrapped in lingering uncertainty, a lifeline dangled into the chasm of my swirling emotions. I didn't know if he was friend or foe, but in that moment, as I tucked my restless son closer, I understood painfully that the decisions made from here on out would not only shape our fate but unravel the threads of a past woven with love and chaos. The stakes had never felt so astronomically high, and as Jace's voice echoed once more, I was left suspended between the shadows of what once was and the urgent need to forge a path forward, no matter where it might lead. The words hung in the air, festering like an open wound, and I felt the weight of every unresolved emotion pressing down on my chest. Jace's voice had resurrected memories I had long buried, ones fraught with tenderness and heartache. I forced myself to focus on the moment, to manage the immediate chaos swirling around us, but my mind slipped into territories it had successfully kept at bay by sheer willpower. Liam sensed the shift, his small frame trembling next to me. In that precious silence, I gently stroked his hair, whispering sweet nothing-anything to ease the palpable tension that blanketed us. We'll be fine, I reassured, though I could feel the tremors of doubt creeping within me. Another shout broke through my turmoil. I know you're here, Dawn. I can't leave you. Jace's desperate tones echoed, pulling at the strands of my heart, reminding me of laughter shared beneath the stars and promises once exchanged. But was he here for me, or for himself? Each moment stretched like the thin skin of a balloon, ready to burst at the slightest flicker of emotion. I wanted to scream, to unleash all the anguish trapped inside, but I also wanted to run into his arms, to feel his warmth wrap me in safety from the tempest raging outside. The mix of longing and terror was unbearable. Cole's tight grip on my shoulder drew my attention back. "We can't stay here. Hell, bring the others. We have to find a way to get you and Liam out of here." His voice was steady, laced with a fierce protectiveness that momentarily afforded me solace amidst my spiraling thoughts. "Can't we just wait it out?" I whispered back, hoping the shadow of doubt mingled with hope might shield us for just a while longer. Yet as I peered into the distance, I saw the movement, dark shapes flickering in and out of the trees. Cole took a deep breath, his eyes calculating, weighing options that felt increasingly scarce. "No. If Jace has come this far, they won't stop looking for you. I'd rather take my chances leapfrogging away from the danger than risk waiting for them to find us here." "Dawn." The call was more insistent now, tinged with panic. I shivered beneath its weight. "Mom." "I'm scared," Liam whispered, his voice trembling like a fleeting ember in a gusty wind. I squeezed his hand tighter, feeling his uncertainty course through me like a thunderclap. "What if he finds us?" The question hung like a guillotine above me. "We won't let that happen, sweetie. Trust me." I wished I could muster the courage behind my words, to project the stability he so desperately needed. I was suffocating under the ceaseless storm of uncertainty, yearning to pull him away from the chaos, yet unable to escape the gravity of my tangled past. As I turned to Cole, I caught a hint of frustration in his eyes, an echo of my own desperation. "Okay, lead us," I finally said, wrestling my own emotions to the ground as I tried to focus on the larger picture. "Stay low, keep together," he instructed, guiding us back toward the dense clutches of trees, where shadows embraced us like a protective cloak. Yet, just as we began to move, a sound erupted. It was a cough, hoarse and strained from the distance, an unmistakable confirmation of Jace breaking through the underbrush. "Dawn. I need you to talk to me. It doesn't have to end like this." His voice rang with an intensity that stirred regret within me, and I felt a fierce battle between instinct and emotion. Should I answer? Should I run toward him where promises made once seem tangible? My heart skipped wildly at the echo of his words, each one reminding me of the tether we still shared, but I bolstered myself against the invitation to slip back into that life, one where the shadows of our past intertwined with the present. Another crack of branches intensified my resolve. I pressed onward, squeezing Liam's hand as the thrum of danger pulled us deeper into the thickets, masking our vulnerability. The creek burbled nearby, a comforting whisper in the midst of chaos, yet the relentless drum of Jace's calls persisted, chipping away at the walls I had erected around my heart. That we rounded a massive oak, its gnarled branches standing sentinel to our fears. Suddenly, the ground beneath us slipped, the soft earth giving way. I barely caught myself, but the moment created an alarming ripple in our hasty retreat. "Go." Cole urged, signaling me to keep moving, and I reached back for Liam, pulling him with unwavering strength. But as we slipped into the shadows, I glanced back one last time, driven by impulse. Jace stood there, his face twisted with emotions I could no longer define. Was it longing? Grief? The flicker of guilt cracked the facade he had worn so well while hunting us down. In that brief moment, our gazes locked, years unwound between us as if nothing else mattered. With one final shout, he turned, the distance between us feeling like an insurmountable chasm, and I was left gasping, hollowed inside, haunted by his expression and what it might mean for our future. The path was treacherous, and every step I took was fraught with dread. But as we finally reached another clearing, leaning against the familiar trees of my past, I suddenly realized, I was caught in a web spun by love and shadows, and no matter how far I ran, I had yet to outrun my own heart. And just as the last breath of daylight slipped beneath the horizon, a chilling thought clawed at the back of my mind. What if Jace came for more than me this time? What if he wanted Liam? The air was thick with uncertainty, each breath a reminder of the tangled emotions clawing at my heart. Cole led us further into the thicket, urgency propelling our every step while Liam stayed firmly at my side, his small hand a promise in this unpredictable storm. Every rustle of leaves seemed amplified, the shadows closing in, a stark backdrop to the chaotic swirl within. I could feel the weight of choices bearing down on me, the looming dread of what lay behind us, yet I pressed on. "Mom," Liam's voice broke through my thoughts, his innocence shining in the midst of fear. "Are we going to see Jace again?" The very mention of his name sent a shudder down my spine. I glanced back toward the sounds of the forest, straining to hear the fading echoes of his calls, wrapped in desperation. The connection between us had once felt so vital, but now it twisted with apprehension. "Don't know, sweetie," I murmured, unsure if I should protect him from the truth or prepare him for a possibility I wished would dissolve. "We just have to keep moving." Cole turned to me, his gaze steady, urgency manifesting in a determination that felt like a lifeline. "We need to get far enough away so he can't find us. I know these woods better than anyone, I can lead us to a safe place." My heart raced. Trusting Cole was a leap of faith, yet it was the only option we had at this moment. "Okay," I said, forcing the confidence I didn't fully feel into my voice. That we pushed forward, weaving through the trees, but each crunching leaf beneath our feet acted as a stark reminder of the danger lurking behind. In my mind, I could still hear Jace's voice calling my name, each syllable drenched in anguish, pulling at my heartstrings like an invisible tether I longed to sever but could not find the strength to do so. Finally, Cole led us to a small clearing, a forgotten nook embraced by towering pines. The dappled sunlight fought through the branches, illuminating a rocky outcropping sprinkled with the remnants of wildflowers stubbornly blooming. It felt like a sanctuary, a brief reprieve from the chaos. "That we can wait here for now," Cole said, scanning the area. "If we don't waste time, we can get deeper into the forest. Jace won't know where to look." That I crouched beside Liam, who was now fidgeting nervously, his awareness growing painfully sharp amidst the confusion. "We're safe for the moment, buddy," I reassured him, but my voice wavered, unable to quell the storm brewing inside me. "Just stay close." But even as I spoke, a distant sound prickled at my senses, a rustle, or perhaps a whisper. I stood, my heart racing as instinct kicked in. I turned toward Cole, eyes wide. "Did you hear that?" His expression shifted, tension crackling in the air like electricity. "Stay alert," he whispered, his hand instinctively moving closer to a pocket with what I assumed was a weapon. "Don't move." It felt as though time stretched infinitely in that moment, fraught with dread. I could feel the weight of uncertainty flashing between us. Jace was seeking me, but I wasn't sure whether his intentions held malevolence or desperation. The sound grew louder, and my heart quickened, urgency consuming every thought. "Liam," I whispered urgently, kneeling down to meet his gaze. "If anyone comes, you must stay quiet, no matter what, okay?" "Okay," he nodded cautiously, clutching a fistful of my shirt, his expression a melange of bravery mixed with fear. The low thrum of uncertainty wrapped itself around us like a heavy fog, suffocating yet eerily still. And just when I thought the weight of that silence might swallow us whole, a figure burst into the clearing, a dark silhouette against the forest light. My breath caught in my throat, cold dread inching its way down my spine. "Dawn." Jace's voice rang out, the urgency tangible and raw, and I felt my heart lurch with conflicting feelings. The recognition was instant, the warmth of shared laughter, the memories clung to my body like a shadow I couldn't escape. "I've been looking for you, what are you doing here?" I shouted, the notion of anger flaring up, masking the vulnerability that rose within me. "You need to leave. You're putting us all at risk." He stepped closer, the undergrowth crackling beneath his feet, but reluctance lingered in his gaze, a storm contained within the depths of his eyes. "I'm here to help. You need to listen to me." "No." I shook my head violently, heart pounding. "You have no idea what's at stake. Just go back." I tried to maintain composure, masking the chaotic torrent inside. "Please, just let me explain," he implored, desperation etching each word, weaving through the tension like a thread begging to be pulled tighter. "Explain what?" I scoffed, tearing away from the confounding, confusing warmth his presence elicited. "How you got caught in this mess too? How you'll put Liam and me in danger?" I grimaced at the words that escaped my lips, knowing how much I wanted to believe otherwise. That I am not here to hurt you, he protested, his eyes shifting past me toward Cole, whose stance remained defensive. I want to keep you safe. Lena, she's involved in something dangerous, and they're out for revenge. A shiver rolled through me at the mention of Lena, the complexity of our intertwining pasts unfolding like a tangled web. What does Lena have to do with this? Those people who want Gwen aren't just after her, they're after anyone she was close to. You're in danger, he said, voice breaking, sincerity shining through the turmoil. The sensation of pull was dizzying. Part of me longed to lean into the magnetic center of Jace's earnestness, while another anchored me in the fear of my own history. In that turbulent moment, I felt Liam tremble beside me, his fear radiating through my skin, coaxing me to protect him at all costs. Liam. I called softly, drawing closer to him. Maybe we should go back. No. Cole interrupted sharply, stepping forward, a wall holding the weight of protective instinct rooted deep within him. No one can be trusted. The danger is real. We can't afford to let them find us here. Silence wrapped around us, freezing the tension in the air. Jace's expression twisted with a multitude of emotions, desperation clawing its way through the seams of his bravado. I could see how deeply the situation affected him, but I couldn't ignore the palpable danger new and old realities had conjured. In that moment of indecision, another sound broke through the low rumble of distant voices, more footsteps approaching, their presences carrying the weight of fear that encircled us all like a shroud. Shit, Cole muttered, his voice taut and urgent as he scanned the perimeter. We have to move now. What do we do? I questioned breathlessly, eyes darting between Jace and Cole, frantically grappling with the uncertainty that threatened to swallow us whole. Jace stepped forward, urgency igniting in every word he spoke. If you trust me, we need to get off the main trails. I know a way through the mountain pass that will lead us to safety, he implored, and as much as I wanted to argue, the harshness of reality weighed heavily against my hesitation. Liam, stay close, I commanded, heart racing as I turned to Cole and Jace, both desperately searching my face for an answer I struggled to supply. I could see sweat glisten at Jace's brow, a reflection of the chaos swimming within each of us. Let's go, no more delays. Cole snapped, grasping my arm in urgency, pulling me along. But no matter the danger encroaching, I couldn't shake the connection I felt toward Jace, nor could I forget the rawness of his intent, a flicker of warmth against the chilly grasp of overwhelming dread. Every footfall felt like both an escape and a step toward an uncharted territory rife with uncertainty. I stole one last glance back at Jace's flicker in his eyes signaled a hope too frightening to embrace, a reminder of something beautiful lost within the shadows. As we plunged deeper into the woods with desperation coiling around us like smoke, I realized that the shadows of my past were intent on chasing us forward toward something visceral and inevitable, where love and fear would collide head-on in a dance of reckoning. There was no return, only the faint echoes of hearts in search of redemption and shadowy figures beckoning the past, haunting yet familiar, capturing every thread of longing between love and danger, real and imagined. And beneath it all, the relentless pull igniting a fire inside, a hope that perhaps, just perhaps, we could carve a path to safety, where acceptance could light the way and the shadows could finally fade.